Hello, my name is Moshe, and I'm going to be talking about my time in Morocco to help you prepare for your week in Kids and Culture Camp on the country of Morocco. I spent 2 years and 3 months in this North African country that's on the furthest reaches of the west coast of Africa, and I did that as a Peace Corps volunteer in the mid-2000s. I worked in what would be considered here a youth center, and I taught English as well as did projects with the community members. So during that time I had a lot of opportunity to experience the country culturally, through a little bit of history, some of the dynamics that go on in terms of how Morocco interacts with the rest of the world, how Morocco looks at other parts of the world, and see the influences that have created the country that it is today. I also had a lot of relationships. I had a couple of host families. I also made plenty of friends, and of course with the kids I worked with, I was able to get to know them as well as their families. So it was a truly enriching experience, and I hope that I will be able to give you some information that will be able to benefit you as you guys prepare to share information about what I consider a hidden gem, a great country, and a place where I not only learned a lot about other people and other ways of thinking, but also learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about you and the country that we live in now, our home, the United States of America. So I will be covering several topics. I'm going to just do these in smaller vignettes, topics ranging from culture, that would include music and tradition, people. Also we'll be talking about some of the economics, geographic, fashion, and some of the other areas that I think will be of particular interest, hopefully to not only you, the instructors, but also to the kids that you'll be working with. So a few of the popular locations in Morocco, what I'd like to talk to you about is some of the cities as well as some of the landmarks that are come to kind of give Morocco some of its well-known reputation. So when it comes to cities, Marrakesh is probably kind of one of the well-known cities. It's kind of the city of, I don't know, there's more lore I would say around it. There were definitely times that in history Marrakesh played a larger role in the history of the country, where sultans were setting up their governments, and they were in Marrakesh, and has one of the older and well-known souks. The souk is the market. So and it also, the souk is also happens to be in the Medina, so they'll call the old Medina. Medina is the Arabic word for city, and so when you go into that area, it's very compact and dense with merchants, and whatever you want you can buy in there. I got a nice soccer jersey in the souk. You can buy your rugs, you can buy your shoes, your jalabas, and at this point, you know, a lot of that is for the tourist, and so you're gonna get sold really hard. The Moroccan people are they're not shy when it comes to trying to get your attention and trying to make sure you get to see their wares. So you're going to see jewelry. You can buy tagines, but you can get really nice looking tagines, different colors. You can buy, but also in there you'll see the butcher. So you'll see like fish and goat, like freshly slaughtered, hanging there. Parts of cows and sheep and stuff. The tanneries exist in these places, and you can just get really lost. It's just I could never do it justice. It's like a whole different world when you go into the marketplace. Restaurants in Marrakesh in particular, you have entertainers. You'll have people that have trained Barbary apes performing, people with snakes. So you have also well-known souk is in Fez. Fez is also one of the larger cities. Rabat, which is the capital, and Casablanca. So that's probably actually the most well-known city because of the movie with Humphrey Bogart. I believe Casablanca also has the largest population, and there's also a few other well-known cities. Tanja, which is one of the most northernmost cities in Morocco. It's on the Mediterranean, and from there you can take a ferry and go into Spain, southern Spain. You can see Gibraltar. Chefchaouen, which is a well-known city in the mountains. It's especially well known because of the blue homes and buildings. It's a light blue. There's also a couple of Spanish enclaves in Morocco, Ceuta and Melilla. Those actually are in Morocco in the country, but these two cities actually are Spanish. So if you were to cross in there, you would have to have a passport. As far as sites, there are Roman ruins in Morocco. The Volubis are probably the most well-known near the city of Meknes. There are also Roman ruins near Rabat, the capital city. In the south, there's La Gorge de Tolda. That's a gorge, just like it sounds, but just with the French accent. In Casablanca, there's the Hassan II Mosque, built right on the water. A lot of people that visit will go on a camel trek, and usually they'll do those out of the desert towns of Merzouga, or they'll do it out of Zagora, and two different parts of the country. If you go to the city of El Jadida, that is on the Atlantic coast, you'll see an old water cistern and ramparts from the time that Portuguese occupied the city. And in the middle of the country, in the Atlas Mountains, is the Cascade Ouzoud, Cascades de Ouzoud, Ouzud, beautiful waterfalls. And also, even though it's not Moroccan, you can get there, access it from Morocco's Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar, which, if those you know Prudential might be familiar with that particular structure. So those are the popular places that you'll want to go see if you ever had the chance. So I'd like to talk about a few basic things about Morocco. I'd like to talk about the flag, and I'd like to talk about its history, a little bit about its history. First off, the Moroccan flag is a green star, a pentacle that's set on the backdrop of an all-red canvas. So the significance of the star, it's called Suleiman's star. Suleiman is the Arab word for Solomon, and it's the five pillars of Islam is what the significance of that star is, and it has a direct bearing between God's relationship with the country, with the nation. The flag was created around 1912, and that green is very common in Arab states, and red isn't particularly common in Persian Gulf states, which obviously Morocco is not that, but has some strong ties to Saudi Arabia, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Actually, we can go ahead and segue into that right now and talk a little bit about the history of Morocco. It's important to note that Morocco is the name that we that speak English, or the Anglophone countries, refer to Morocco, as by this name. In France, I believe, in Francophone countries, it's Morocco. And in Arabic, it's actually a Maghreb. Maghreb is the Arab word for west. And as you might know already with the geography of Morocco, it is actually on the west coast of the African continent. And so I believe it's probably the furthest western Islamic country, but don't quote me on that. But I'm just thinking out loud, because once you hit the Atlantic Ocean, you go continue west, you're in the United States. So I believe, though, it is the westernmost country that practices Islam. As far as history is concerned, the history of this place dates back very far into like the classical and era. You had this was a place that was at one point had Phoenician settlements and was also a part of the Carthaginian Empire. That same Carthage that was ruled by the great general Hannibal, and also was a part of the Roman Empire. So it had some major it was a part of some major historical empires. It also the local people, or that are considered the natives to Morocco, are called Berbers. They also had their own tribes and kingdoms throughout history, and in fact, they were kind of running things independently, and then the Arab occupation took place. And that was in the first century. There also, Morocco was a place that had Spanish outposts as well as Portuguese outposts, and it was a French protectorate in 1912. There was some jostling between Spain and France and Germany, and as a result of some of the geopolitical wrangling that was taking place at that time, Morocco became a protectorate of the nation of France. It gained its independence in 1956, and another significant happening in history is there was it's called the Green March in 1975, when like over 300,000 Moroccans, at the beckoning of the king of I believe that was Mohammed the Fifth. I was trying to think of the French word for five. It wasn't coming to me. Saint. Thank you. And they walked into what's known as Western Sahara to bring that part of into the Moroccan sphere of influence. So Western Sahara is not recognized by the United States or the United Nations as a part of Morocco, but Morocco administers it, and it's been that way for over 40 years. So there's still issues with there's a group of people that would like that part of the country, we'll just say for all intents and purposes, that part of the country to be independent and have its own nation. And they actually have set up shop in, they're called the Polisario, and they are set up in Afghanistan. So there is some friction, but overall, if you talk to Moroccans, I'm sure they would generally say that that is a part of they recognize that as a part of their country. And the Arab Spring took place. I think this is significant because if you're familiar with the Arab Spring, which started around 2011, I believe the first country that was affected by the Arab Spring was Tunisia. If you know Northern Africa, then you'll know that it comprises of Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. I believe the two countries that did not have an Arab Spring as far as a turnover in government, I don't recall Algeria having a situation where the government turned over, and Morocco was the other country that did not experience a turnover, but they did have a change in some of the governing as a result of what was going on in Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt. As you know, in those three countries, they all experienced a turnover in government where those long-standing leaders were all deposed, arrested, or they resigned their positions, or in the case of Muammar Gaddafi, he was killed. So it is, and as you know, Arab Spring is what also took place, or is what currently is going on in Syria. So, so just a little bit of more recent history for you. Another significant historical fact is Morocco was the first country to recognize the United States as an independent nation. And so if you happen to be in Morocco, they might just, in fact, let you know that they did that. So a few of the popular locations in Morocco, what I'd like to talk to you about is some of the cities, as well as some of the landmarks that are come to kind of give Morocco some of its well-known reputation. So when it comes to cities, Marrakesh is probably kind of one of the well-known cities. It's kind of the city of, I don't know, there's more lore I would say around it. There were definitely times that in history Marrakesh played a larger role in the history of the country, where sultans were setting up their governments, and they were in Marrakesh. It has one of the older and well-known souks. The souk is the market. So and it also, the souk is also happens to be in the Medina, so they'll call the old Medina. Medina is the Arabic word for city. And so when you go into that area, it's very compact and dense with merchants, and whatever you want you can buy in there. I got a nice soccer jersey in the souk. You can buy your rugs, you can buy your shoes, your jalabas, and at this point, you know, a lot of that is for the tourist, and so you're not get sold really hard. The Moroccan people are they're not shy when it comes to trying to get your attention and trying to make sure you get to see their wares. So you're going to see jewelry. You can buy tagines, but you can get really nice looking tagines, different colors. You can buy, but also in there you'll see the butcher. So you'll see like fish and goat, like freshly slaughtered, hanging there. Carts of cows and sheep and stuff. The tanneries exist in these places, and you can just get really lost. It's just I could never do it justice. It's like a whole different world when you go into the marketplace. Restaurants in Marrakesh in particular, you have entertainers. You'll have people that have trained Barbary apes performing, people with snakes. So you have also well-known souk is in Fez. Fez is also one of the larger cities. Rabat, which is the capital, and Casablanca. So that's probably actually the most well-known city because of the movie with Humphrey Bogart. I believe Casablanca also has the largest population, and there's also a few other well-known cities. Tanja, which is one of the most northernmost cities in Morocco. It's on the Mediterranean, and from there you can take a ferry and go into Spain, southern Spain. You can see Gibraltar. Chefchaouen, which is a well-known city in the mountains. It's especially well known because of the blue homes and buildings. It's a light blue. There's also a couple of Spanish enclaves in Morocco, Ceuta and Melilla. Those actually are in Morocco in the country, but these two cities actually are Spanish. So if you were to cross in there, you would have to have a passport. As far as sites, there are Roman ruins in Morocco. The Volubis are probably the most well known near the city of Meknes. There are also Roman ruins near Rabat, the capital city. In the south, there's La Gorge de Tolda. That's a gorge, just like it sounds, but just with the French accent. In Casablanca, there's the Hassan II Mosque, built right on the water. A lot of people that visit will go on a camel trek, and usually they'll do those out of the desert towns of Merzouga, or they'll do it out of Zagora, and two different parts of the country. If you go to the city of El Jadida, that is on the Atlantic coast, you'll see an old water cistern and ramparts from the time that Portuguese occupied the city. And in the middle of the country, in the Atlas Mountains, is the Cascade Ouzoud, Cascades de Ouzoud, Ouzud, beautiful waterfalls. And also, even though it's not Moroccan, you can get there, access it from Morocco's Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar, which, if those you know Prudential might be familiar with that particular structure. So those are the popular places that you'll want to go see if you ever had the chance. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the geography of Morocco. Morocco, if you count the Western Sahara, which again is not recognized by the United States as being a part of Morocco, but is administered by the Moroccan government. If you add that portion of land to the recognized borders of Morocco, Morocco is slightly bigger than the state of California. It has about 34 million population, but I'd like to talk about that in the demographic section. Morocco is unique in that it touches the Atlantic and the Mediterranean Sea. So on its westernmost side, that entire western borders of Morocco is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean. And to the north, it is bordered by the Mediterranean. So that means Morocco, from two sides, is bordered by water. So that is the only country in Africa that can claim that distinction. It is also to the east, the nation to its east, direct east, is Algeria. And it is also to its south is Mauritania. And that's at the Western Sahara border. And that's south and east. So southeast is Mauritania, and direct south is Algeria. Where I lived actually in the southern and eastern part of Morocco. I actually lived closer to Algeria than I actually lived to the Atlantic Ocean. It took about 12 hours from where I lived to get to the Atlantic Ocean, whereas I could probably cross into Algeria in a matter of like 2 to 3 hours, which I never did because we're actually told as American citizens we could not do that, particularly as Peace Corps volunteers. Morocco and Algeria have not always had the best of diplomatic relationships, but they have a lot of shared history and culture in that they were both under French control, and they also both have the Amazigh, also known as Berber people. there in both of those countries. As far as the terrain is concerned, Morocco is mountainous in the northern coast. It actually has 3 different mountain chains. The Reef Mountains are in the north, and in the interior they have what's called the Atlas Mountains, and that's bordered by large plateaus with valleys, and there are fertile coastal plains. It also has another Atlas chain, which is called the Anti-Atlas. And the interior of Morocco is desert. Where I lived in particular, that was the Saharan desert. It was not uncommon to have temperatures in excess of 110 degrees in the summertime. Of course, they did everything in Celsius, and I can't do conversion right now. I've just been away for too long. But I believe it's something like in the 40s or mid 40s Celsius. So in these communities out in the desert, obviously there were cities and towns that were developed, and I lived in a small town, and they are built around what we would call, I guess, an oasis or a palmery, which means there is water there and they're actually palm trees. So populations, as we know, will develop around bodies of water. So throughout that area of the country, you still had large communities that were built because there is a water source. The highest point in Morocco is Jebel Toubkal. Jebel is the Arabic word for mountain, Toubkal, and so I don't have the elevation at this point, but I can provide that to you in my notes. So the climate is also, when we talk about climate, we talk about Mediterranean weather. So you might think of places like southern Greece and Italy, but Morocco is also considered to have Mediterranean weather. California is also considered to have Mediterranean weather. There's a lot of similarities between Morocco and California in not just its size and population size, but also in its climate. So if you've been to California, you know that if you go east and inland in Southern California, you can go to the Mojave Desert, which is one of the hottest places on earth. You know, there are mountain ranges up and down Southern and Northern California, and obviously there's the coastal area, and there are particular climate there that is great for agriculture. So what I'd like to talk about next is language in Morocco. There are 2 official languages in Morocco. One is Fusha, also it's called Classical Arabic. This is the Arabic that I guess would be commonly associated with Saudi Arabia. And also the second language would be Berber, or the Amazigh languages. I like to make some clarifications. There's also French, which is spoken there. A lot of economic and business type of dealings are conducted in French, and English has also become a more commonly used language. Now, when it comes to speaking Arabic on a daily basis, there's a dialect of Fusha that is used in Morocco. It's called Darija. So I guess it would be no different for those in like Anglophone countries. You know, you would hear English spoken differently in the United States versus maybe Australia versus the place of English as we know its origin, England or in particular. So not very different here. Another example of that would be if I would listen to Fusha, and a lot of TV programming would be transmitted from the Arab Peninsula, maybe Saudi Arabia or Qatar or the Arab Emirates. You're gonna, and even in Egypt, you're gonna hear more classical Arabic. But and while the people in Morocco can understand that and they're consuming their information that way, and their language classes in school would be in Fusha, the everyday language that they would speak in, and definitely the one that I was educated in was Darija. So obviously you had to be pretty fluid in different languages. In this country, you could speak as many as 3 or 4 different languages if in fact you are speak Tamazight or Tashlahate. Those are the two the Amazigh languages, and actually there's a third one, Terafit. So there's like 3 different languages that are spoken by the Berbers. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about Arabic. If you're not aware, Arabic is a Semitic language. That's, if you know that word, it's close to like Semite, and it's so it actually is a language that's commonly shared. It would be Arabic, Hebrew, and Amharic, which is spoken in Ethiopia, and oh man, I can't think of the other little nation right next to it, but I think I'll have to maybe come back into that. But Amharic, Hebrew, and Arabic are the 3 commonly used Semitic languages. They also have the distinction of reading, instead of how in English you read from left to right, in a Semitic language you read from right to left. So your books are turning in the other direction and your head's going this way, from the right to the left as you read. So I guess what I could do is share with you guys the Arabic alphabet, just so you can see what it looks like. I never became fluent by any means. I was definitely at a conversational level when it came to Arabic. I never learned Fusha, but I did recognize the characters, and I was able to make these associations with my English to be able to better pronounce and understand, especially because I was learning that language and I was teaching English. I was able to kind of go back and forth between the languages to help my kids learn English, and use the Arabic letters to help them with their pronunciations, because I took a phonetical approach to my English teaching and pronunciation. As far as certain greetings, I want to share a few for you, just so if you want to use them in your classes, you can do that. Some just basic ones. The greeting is pretty basic. I think everybody, especially if you're in the DC area, you might have heard it, or you have a friend who is Muslim, which I believe the greeting is the same across kind of the Muslim world, which is Assalamu alaikum, and the response is Alaikum assalam. So salam is the word for peace in Arabic, and also I believe in Amharic they also say salam, and in Hebrew they say shalom. So there are some, if you learn the languages, you'll see there are similarities in the Semitic languages and some of the pronunciations and words. So if you wanted to, after saying that greeting, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, and you want to ask them how somebody is doing, you would ask them maybe labas alik, that's how are you. And there are several ways you can answer that. You could say back labas, which is I'm good. You could say bekhair, and so there's that it's like a guttural like stop in the back of your throat. In the Arabic language is kind of rough, and you need to kind of develop that. It took quite a while. So that word bekhair, and I'm a little rusty myself, but that is a way of saying I'm good. Or you could say kurshi bekhair, like I'm very good. Kurshi labas, essentially the same thing, I'm very good. And to that, somebody might say to you, alhamdulillah, like thanks to God.
And of course, what I'm doing is, these aren't always perfect, like word for word translations, but essentially what I want to give you is the kind of how it would be used and associated with phrases that we're familiar with. Also, what we ended up doing, because I didn't write in Arabic and I didn't read Arabic, but I saw you intend to do transliteration. So if you were to transliterate these words, depending upon your source, it's going to read differently. But what we try to do is transliterate the best way to help aid the learner with their pronunciation. So another, as I had mentioned before, Arabic language uses a lot of what we call God phrases that just invoke the name of God, and they're just in your common vernacular. So it's something you just need to be aware of as you kind of learn and get us acquainted with the language. So another phrase you might say is like after somebody's eaten, they might say like bisaha after they've eaten, and you say like tiksaha, which is basically man, I can't even really remember that. Some of these things you just learn because you kind of, in my cultural learning, they're like, okay, this is what you say after a situation. And I don't even know if I actually ever perfectly translated that, but if you are eating, you've eaten well, or somebody sees that you've eaten well, they'll say bisaha, and the response back to that is like tiksaha, like tiksaha. If you're talking to somebody, it's not uncommon, if you're talking about a future occurrence, to say inshallah, which is basically God willing. So if it's somebody saying to you, hey, I'll see you later, you say inshallah. So that's also one of the common words that are used. Also, what I'll give you is the phrase for asking somebody's name and saying what your name is in Darija. So if you want to ask what somebody's name is, you would say Shnu Smitik. Shnu Smitik. Let's like sh, as it's starting to say shoe, but then putting new in front of it. Shnu Smitik. What's your name? And then if you want to answer, you would say Anna Smiti Moshe. Anna, like the name, pretty close. Smiti Moshe, which is like a SMITI if you were to try and sound that out. So if you were to have a quick conversation, you might say Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, Shnu Smitik, Anna Smiti Moshe, Labas alik, Alhamdulillah. So you just had like a quick little exchange in the language of Darija. I'll also, real quickly, I'll count to 10 just so you get a sense of those words. Darija has very similar but not exact same words as Fusha when it comes to numbers. But overall, you'd be able to follow if you were kind of familiar with the language. So if you wanted to count 1 to 10, I'm going to do that for you, and that'll be the last part of this section. So I think you'll get the pace. I don't have to tell you which word's what. I'll just count to 10, and you'll know, because if you count with your fingers, you'll know what's 1, what's 2, and so on. Okay. Wahed, Juj, Gleta, Arba, Khamsa, Sta, Sabao, Thaminia, Sirud, Eshra. That's 1 to 10. Wahed. So Wahed, Juj, Gleta, Arba, Khamsa, Sta, Sabao, Thaminia, Sirud, Eshra. That's 1 through 10. But I understand if you just want to go 1 through 3, which is Wahed, Juj, Gleta, Wahed, Juge, Tleta. So now you got your 1, 2, and 3, and the ABC, totally different ball game. I'm not even going to do that. But hopefully these phrases will just give you a little bit of a taste. And of course, it's probably better to, there's plenty of videos on YouTube to help educate you on the kind of perfect pronunciation for Moroccan Arabic that you might want to use if you're interested in that. So let's take a little bit of time and talk about food. I enjoyed eating in Morocco, and so I wanted to first share some of the influences with you and just give you some of the names of some of the dishes that I particularly liked. And you can look it up. I'll give you the spelling, and that should kind of lead you to where you want to go as far as if you want to learn a little bit more about it. So the influences are Mediterranean, European, Sephardic Jewish, and Berber. If you ever go to Morocco or talk to somebody that's gone to Morocco, I would be really surprised if they don't talk to you about Moroccan Mint Tea. It's one of the things that they're probably known for. It's always served hot. It's actually just, I think, the green tea from China, it starts there, but it has very fragrant minty, very sweet. It's pretty great. I mean, you'll know if you like it immediately once you taste it. You drink it in the hot of summer, you drink it in the cold of winter. And it's a staple as far as if you are welcome in somebody's home or if you go to a restaurant, you're going to get offered tea, and it's always good to accept the courtesy of your host in Morocco in particular. Another thing that Morocco is well known for is a tagine, and tagine is actually two things in one. It's cone-shaped dish under which made of clay, in which food is cooked, and so the food that's cooked in a tagine is also called a tagine. And in a tagine you could have it can cook over many hours. It's in this ceramic container, this cone-like container, and it's heated up, and people put chicken in there, potatoes and carrots, or couscous. Couscous also is something that's well known in Morocco, at least where I was living. On Sundays was a day you made couscous, and I remember a few occasions, and also friends of mine that experienced this, that somebody in the neighborhood might create like a big huge dish of couscous. You can walk by because it's like literally outside. You can come by, you just roll up a ball, you roll up couscous in a good ball, and you just eat it and be on your way. So I've definitely developed an appreciation for couscous over there. Also, Morocco is known for having the fat bread. Over there it's called khubz. It's about yay thick, round, and it's made fresh. One of my host mothers, she made it in an earthen oven every morning, real thick. It was really good. But there's also other types of kind of bread or wheat-based foods that were created. One was called misimin. That was made with flour. It was a little thinner and spongier. You eat it for breakfast, as well as another called bahrir. It's kind of like, I believe that was kind of thicker. And then harsha, I believe, was corn-based, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of cornbread. But those are like several of the breads that were commonly made in Morocco. You can get shawarma there, so it's off the spit. You can get lamb, goat, generally, or you can also get beef. Morocco is known for its olives, and I don't mean the black olives you get at the pizza place, but like green and red olives, like really like tasty. Just also because it's right on the coast, Morocco is also known for its seafood. So they it also came in, like I lived out in the desert and you get seafood out there, but I guess it was in frozen trucks, but I didn't get the seafood unless I was out on the coast. I would advise the same for you. As far as for like a dessert or a snack, you had dates. Dates are also grown in Morocco, really good, or you can get used to them. And for dessert, it was very common to have fruit. While Morocco, you had cookies and they were served. That wasn't given as a dessert. That was kind of like a snack or something that you give to your guests coming in with their tea. So you have your really sweet Moroccan tea, then you have some cookies to go along with it. So you have like sugar on top of your sugar. So those are some of the common foods and some of the ones that I like to eat when I was in Morocco. But there's plenty of other meals that you might also enjoy there. So I'd like to talk a little bit about plants and animals in Morocco. Probably one of the most notable animals in Morocco is the Barbary Ape. And the Barbary Ape lives in the mountains, in the Atlas Mountains. I was able to see them, and they're pretty numerous. I saw them near the Cascade Ouzoud, and also in another area in the northeastern side of the country, also in the mountains near Ifran, which is where a well-known university is in that part of the country. There's also, at one point, used to be a Barbary lion, and that's now extinct, but there were lions in Morocco at one point. There are also shrews, which is a type of rodent, pretty small. There's also hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are pretty numerous in Morocco. You'll also see bats. You'll see a finnick, which is a type of fox. It's well known because of the large pointy ears that it has, kind of outsized from the size of its head. Gazelles are also in Morocco, and geckos. I've had a few that were in my house. They crawl up your walls and stuff. There are also what's called Iberian wall lizards. I only saw those actually outside. Another couple of well-known animals in Morocco would be the goats. The goats are known in the Tefraout region for climbing trees. So it's kind of something you might see randomly on a roadside, the goats climbing trees. And another animal that's quite well known in more associated probably with the Middle East, but also is in North Africa, is the camel, the single hump camel. There are three, as I understand, three varieties of camel. There's a double hump camel. I believe that's what's in Mongolia. Well, Morocco has the single hump camel. And if you were ever to go into the desert on a desert trek, camels are what are used to travel across the desert landscape. As far as types of plants that you might see there are a vegetation that grows. Morocco's known for its olives, so you have varieties of olive trees, as well as date plants that grow, and the argan oil obviously is grown there, so the argan tree, and I think probably the most well-known type of tree would be the palm tree. And so the palm trees grow in the palmeries. The palmeries can either be above ground or below ground rivers, and obviously they grow in large clusters, so you have these areas that can be well shaded and they're also well irrigated. So those are probably the most well-known plants and animals back in Morocco. So let's take a minute or a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about Moroccan music and art. Moroccan music has several influences, being it's kind of been a well-traveled part of the world for centuries. So you see that the influences come across in the type of music that's produced there or currently consumed. You'll have Andalusian music, which obviously has the reference to the Andalusian area, which is European. You have Berber folk music, as well as what's called Shaabi. I didn't listen to it, but it definitely, I believe it was kind of a classical sounding, which classical is kind of different when you're talking about North Africa. Ganawa is a style of music, and as well as Sufi and Rai, and more contemporarily there's hip hop and reggae. So interestingly, there are a couple of big artists in Morocco that are producing that music as well. When it comes to art, Moroccan jewelry is something that people will always come across. You'll see different types of paintings. Actually, was friends with a painter in the town that I lived in. He painted portraits and landscapes, and you also will see henna. Henna is well known and well used in Morocco. You'll see it applied. I mean, if you're a tourist, you'll pay somebody to give it to you, but also for a woman that is on her wedding day, will get her hands and feet done in henna. And maybe the most well-known, I guess, artistic, but it's also just something that you have in your house, are rugs. A lot of people will come to buy rugs in Morocco. They'll go to the souks, also known as the markets, and purchase. You haggle with the salesman, and you can get these very beautiful rugs. One of my host mothers, she was in a cooperative, and she had a big loom that she used, and it was hand done, so it was high quality, and so they can definitely be in demand. It's not uncommon for women who have a source of income, it being the production of Moroccan rugs and other types of clothing. So those are probably the most well-known things that you'll hear about. So let's talk a little bit about customs in Morocco. There are a few things that you want to know, I think, that are particularly stood out to me in my time there. Families I found to be very close-knit. Also, you would see multi-generations of families living in one home. And you might even see, the daughter, and maybe she's married with her husband, or vice versa. Maybe the husband has his daughter. The husband has his wife there. You might have other siblings there. You might have grandmother, grandfather there, or both. But families are definitely closer. And this might be also a byproduct of where I lived in particular, as opposed to like the cities, which might be more European in nature, in that you're not going to have necessarily the multi-generation. But I can't speak to that because I lived out in the country. I also saw a great respect for elders in my time in Morocco. One of the things that I was really endeared to is when you see somebody older and you come and you kiss their hand, or you do the motion where like you're about to like kiss their hand to show them respect. Kissing on the cheek is a common greeting for men and for women. Moroccan people, in terms of personal space, definitely were a lot closer. So I think it's something in the United States we're not accustomed to seeing people kind of in closer personal space. And although I guess in the Washington area you might see it, but you didn't know it. Like you might be in line and somebody might be kind of up close to you. You're like, what's your problem? Well, they're probably from a culture that just doesn't have the same, I guess, spatial relationships as we do. We like our space. Well, in Morocco, totally different. You have to be very prepared to be more hands-on. People hold hands. Women hold women's hands in the streets. Men hold men's hands in the streets. In that sense, it's very intimate and endearing once you actually can step back and appreciate that. There's definitely, I would say, a culture of, I guess how we phrase it out here, shame and honor. People definitely have a level of pride. I don't want to minimize that, and there's also can be shame. There's definitely more thoughtfulness about your actions and their reflections on your family and your community, and vice versa in terms of successes. There's definitely a love of hospitality. Moroccans love to have people in their homes and give them nice mint tea or Couscous, which is like a snack, or maybe cookies or something, or dates. And when you greet somebody, if you don't know, if you're not kissing them, then you shake their hand with the right hand. After you shake their hand, you bring your hand to your heart. And so that's a very common greeting. So if you encounter somebody who's shakes your hand and touches their heart, there might be a chance that they were in Morocco or in one of the countries nearby. So demographically speaking, there are approximately 34 million people that live in Morocco. Like I said, in the range of California. I don't even think that includes the people that live in the Western Sahara, so it's even closer to like that California number. As far as ethnic breakdown, a lot of people consider themselves either Arab or Berber, and that, don't let that fool you. What I kind of learned there observing is you'll see people that will consider themselves Arab and it's potentially look white, and then you'll see people that call themselves Arab and they look black. So what I learned, my takeaway was kind of how here we know if you're Hispanic, that doesn't mean it's a specific color. It can be a very wide range of appearances and colors of what people look like. So I saw that kind of in Arabic as well, and I also saw that in Berber, which is the other ethnic group that's very dominant, which is obviously connected to the early Moroccans. And I saw Berbers that were very fair-skinned. I saw dark-skinned Berbers. You also had Africans that were there, but that was distinguished a little differently in that if they were sub-Saharan African, they were identified as such. In a little bit, I'll also talk about kind of some of the racial dynamics in Morocco and some of the things that I experienced over there, just to kind of give you a little additional perspective if you were curious. So I'd like to now talk a little bit about the Moroccan economy. Overall, it's actually pretty diverse. Morocco has an economy that supports aerospace, the automotive industry, in terms of mining for natural mineral resources. They have mining for phosphates. They also deal in textiles, apparel, and subcomponents. Morocco is also known, I don't know how big it is a contribution to their economy, but obviously tourism is a big contributor to the economy, as well as Argan Oil, which is grown in this region called Tefraut. And Argan Oil is kind of one of those things like jojoba or whatever. Like, you can use it in your hair, you can use it on your skin, you can cook with it, it's an oil. So that's popular. And also rugs. Moroccan rugs are very popular. A lot of people come into the country, and if you go to the markets or the souk, people are always going to try and sell you rugs. They have them in different sizes. It's definitely a significant part of the economy, I would say, out in the country where I lived, where my host mother did make rugs. She was a part of a cooperative of women that made rugs and sold them at festivals of various sizes. So that's definitely a big part of how they did business down there. So when it comes to Moroccan fashion, there are a couple of types of clothing that we can discuss. There are, as I've mentioned, there's what's called the Berber or the Amazigh people. They're that speak Tarifit, Tashlahit, or is it Tarifit, Tashlahit, and the third one is it's escaping me right now. But they all have, there's the Berber people have different tribes, and so you, depending upon which tribe they're in, you might actually identify where they're from by the type of covering that they wear, the women wear. Where I lived, you had women that they had a covering that was black. I'll have to send some pictures or some photos of it, but it was a black and covering that was multicolored. It was handmade, and it was called, I'm about to do this one. Yes. Oh, look, I got help. Taharut. It is worn different ways. You'll have women that will cover their head with it. Their face is visible. You have women, a lot of women would wear it just over their torso, and you also had women that wear it around their waist. So it's a large enough cloth that you had multiple uses, and based on the designs, they would identify the tribe that you belong to. I thought they're pretty beautiful. They also had not just different multicolored threads in it, but also what you would call, I don't know, like the little sparkly trinket sort of things. I don't know what you call them, but look, I will send some photos of the Taharut, and you can kind of see it for yourself. So that's something that's worn specifically down in the Sahara, where I lived, in that southeast part of the country, whereas that would not be something worn necessarily by people further west that spoke like Tarifit. Another thing you would see is, I don't even know what the name of the type of shoe it was, but they wore pointy shoes. So I'll look and see if I can find those shoes. But they were everywhere. And there were a couple other items of clothing that are well known in Morocco. The fez, and you might know a fez from the city that it's named after. It's red and circular, it sits on your head. If you're familiar with maybe like Shriners, a Shriners group, they wore fezes, but I'll also include a photo of a fez. The Jalapa. The Jalapa is an outer covering that had, in most cases, would have a hood to it, so it probably go down to around your knees, and they were long sleeved, and they actually had them for different types of weather. So like for a winter Jalapa, I have one actually, it's all wool, very thick. And then I had a summer one, which is a lot thinner, cooler, appropriate for the time of year. And women would wear what was called a kaftan. A kaftan is like a jalaba, but it doesn't have the hood. It's like an outer covering. I saw them mostly when women were having a wedding, and it might be what they wore after the wedding when they were having like the kind of the little reception after, or the party. So those are probably the most well-known in terms of Moroccan clothing. when it comes to festivals, I'm just going to name three different parts of the country. There's the Gnawa Festival, which is hosted at Essaouira. It's on the Atlantic coast. It's, as you might guess if you're familiar with Gnawa music, that is what the festival's filled with. You get a couple, tens of thousands of people come to that, pretty popular. And they come from Europe and around different parts of the country and outside the country. You also have in the mountains, in a little town called Immelshil, the Wedding Festival. At the Wedding Festival, you have men and women, Moroccan women and men, that come together to get married at this huge festival. And it's that area is known for the two lakes, which represent the tears of two lovers that were not able to come together. That's why they had tears. There's a lake for the man and a lake for the woman. Lastly, there's the Festival of Roses, which is in the Saharan side. It's in a town called Kalat Maguna, and I guess that's their version of the Rose Parade, perhaps. There's festivities in a similar fashion, and of course there's a queen of the festival, and concerts and lots of activities there too. These are also places where you're going to encounter a lot of the artisans, so you can see jewelry, rugs, things of that nature. So when it comes to government, one of the interesting aspects of Morocco, it's a parliamentary constitutional monarchy. What does that mean? It means Morocco's still a kingdom, but it has a parliament. So it's a mixed legal system. It has civil law that's based on French law and some Islamic law. There's judicial review of legislative acts by constitutional court. The king of Morocco is King Mohammed VI, or Seis in French. Actually, that's Spanish. But it's very close, isn't it? So he's been in power for the past 20 years. While he does maintain power, there is some delegated authority to the parliament. One of the things that was done during the Arab Spring, Morocco again was one of the countries that did not have a government regime change during the Arab Spring that started in 2011, but they did make some concessions in parliamentary powers and authorities. So that was done, and they're still standing as a government to this day. One of the things that we were told while we lived there was, don't disparage the king. Things are very different in Morocco, and I imagine in a lot of other countries when it comes to talking about the highest ruling authority, whereas you don't speak disrespectfully of the king. The king is someone, if you go to a business, you'll see photos of the king. You go to somebody's home, you'll see photos of the king. So I might liken it to, there was a time when you went maybe to a person's home or a grandparent's home and they had the Martin Luther King and the JFK photo. Well, that's the king in Morocco, and you better not say anything bad about the king, especially if you ain't Moroccan. It's kind of disrespectful. So there's definitely a beloved, last I checked, and still in power. As far as the parliament's concerned, it's bicameral. They have two different houses, a Chamber of Advisors, which has 120 seats, and they have a Chamber of Representatives. So it's a mixture of elected offices. They have an electoral college. I believe they also have some direct elected positions as well. So let's talk a little bit about some of the natural disasters and occurrences that take place in Morocco. One of the things that has happened in Morocco is prone to have earthquakes in certain parts of the country. They also have periodic droughts. I can attest to that, living in a place that is a desert. I can also speak to windstorms. Morocco has can get incredibly strong windstorms, and especially in the desert where there's just sand, it can kick up and be completely brown outside. I'll see if I can find some pictures, but I actually bought like ski goggles from well, I guess what you would call a market, an open air market, where they just sell random stuff. Like bought like a car mirror because I didn't have a mirror in my house, for like a rear view mirror, and also things like the my goggles, which came in handy during snowstorms. I mean, see, it wasn't even a snowstorm, a sandstorm. Also, there can be flash floods and landslides, and of course that can also be a part of the erosion that has gone on. Where I lived, there was a big river. You can actually see the riverbed, and it's like really low. Obviously, there have been some erosion, and the quality of the land had changed over the last few decades. So when it comes to sports and games, in all honesty, I only saw like 3 types of sports that were played on a regular basis. The most popular, of course, was football, known in our country as soccer, and everywhere else in the world as football. And where I stayed, we were all Barca fans, so go Barca. Older men played bocce ball, the metal balls, and basketball. Basketball is pretty popular in Morocco, and I'm glad to say there were plenty of Kobe Bryant fans.